Coming up, the Mavs manhandle the Suns and the Pacers shock the champs. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA, local experts with the biggest stories on the hardwood. I am your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Bucks got another big night from Giannis, and they used it to get by the Orlando Magic. Locked On Magic looking on the bright side of things, while Locked On Bucks is excited to see a full team effort from Milwaukee.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, and the Orlando Magic fall 109-102. But hey, we're going to take a moral victory and say that this team played hard. As has been the case throughout an 8-game losing streak, now a 9-game losing streak. You take the good where you can, especially with all the injuries that the Magic have. Markelle Fultz looked good. Paolo Banchero got to the line. The Magic found ways to keep themselves in this game, and most importantly, they didn't quit, which when you're in a 9-game losing streak is something that is a bit of a concern. The team was knocking on the door, but of course the Milwaukee Bucks are a juggernaut. They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and despite the best efforts, the best game plan, the best execution from the Magic, it came down to making or missing shots. And really, that's where this team wants to be. This team wants to be at a point where making and missing shots is what determines games. Not their effort, not their execution, not their playmaking, not their talent level, but whether they make or miss shots. Orlando missed far too many open shots in this game to win the game, but they gave themselves a chance. We'll take it.
The Bucks might have played with their food just a little bit in this one against the Orlando Magic, but ultimately far too experienced and far too much depth for the Magic. My name's Kane Pittman. I'm the host of the Locked On Bucks podcast. 109-102 was your final. You get another 34-point, 13 rebound, 5 assist performance from Giannis. A couple of big-time blocks included in that line as well. And then you just get valuable contributions down the line. Bobby Portis has been a double-double machine this year, 18 points, 10 rebounds for him. And then the Bucks even went right down the bench. Sandro Mamukelashvili had a nice game. AJ Green had a career-high 12 points as well. The Bucks shot a lot of threes in this game. It felt like they were cruising for much of the night, but ultimately, this is a very, very young Orlando Magic team, and the Bucks just went to Orlando, ticked the box, and they move on now 17-6 on the season. One watch point, Chris Middleton, game 2 of his return, 1 for 11 from the field. He's going to shake off that rust. As soon as he does, the Bucks are going to be absolutely cooking.
More trouble in Atlanta as the Hawks once again blow a double-digit lead, this time falling to Oklahoma City. Locked on Thunder goes over the victory, and Locked on Hawks tries to decipher what's going wrong.
The Oklahoma City Thunder had an incredible comeback win over the Atlanta Hawks. The Thunder just didn't have it tonight, but then all of a sudden they flipped the switch. I'm Rylan Stiles, host of Locked on Thunder, and Ousmane Dieng played really well. In fact, went on a 5-0 run by himself to keep the Thunder afloat and within striking distance. Josh Giddey took over with 12 fourth-quarter points. SGA got to 30-plus points again. And this young Thunder team just grinds you down, wears you down, and finds ways to win. We'll break it all down on the Locked on Thunder podcast.
Hello friends, my name is Brad Rowland, and the Atlanta Hawks fall at home to the Oklahoma City Thunder on this Monday evening. Final score of 121-114. The Hawks led by double digits for multiple times in this game, up by 14 points in the second half, and for the 4th time in the last 6 games, the Hawks blew a double-digit lead on the way to a loss. The Hawks basically just stopped making shots in the second half of this game. There is always nuance to this. The Hawks had some turnover issues in this one. 18 giveaways is well above their normal average, but for the most part, it came down to shot making. The Hawks shot 30% from the floor in the fourth quarter, 37% in the second half, and that was really much the culprit in this particular loss at home. It's a make or miss league, as some always say, and the Hawks fell victim to that in this game. We'll get into all of what transpired in this one and much more on the Locked on Hawks podcast.
A late rally thanks to the 2 Jays helped Boston come back to beat the Raptors last night. Locked on Celtics goes over how the C's got the job done.
Best win of the season for the Boston Celtics in Toronto. I'm John Corrales from the Locked on Celtics podcast. Celtics did not look good in the first half, but they turned things around on a back-to-back with no Malcolm Brogdon and no Al Horford. They used a big second half, a big third quarter from Jayson Tatum, a big fourth quarter from Jaylen Brown. Marcus Smart was awesome all throughout that second half, and they get a huge win against the Raptors team that's always tough, always very annoying. But the 2 biggest contributors, I think, were Blake Griffin, who had 13 points and 8 rebounds, including the tip-in that sealed this win. He was a monster on the boards and really held off the Raptors. And Luke Cornett, who chipped in with 11 points and 7 rebounds. Cornett was making cuts, getting to the rim, and really helping the Celtics pull away in the second half. It's a big win for a team now heading to Phoenix to continue this long road trip.
Coming up, a rare loss for the Dubs at home. This is Locked On Game to Game NBA. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by BetOnline, the #1 spot for all of your online sports betting needs. No matter what sport you are interested in betting on, football, basketball, hockey, UFC, boxing, you can do that at BetOnline. It's where the game starts. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NBA. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The starless Memphis Grizzlies still managed to walk away with a win on Monday after the Heat completely laid an egg to start off the week. Locked On Heat and Locked On Grizzlies have details from both sides.
Miami Heat followed up the best win of the season with what might have been their worst loss, a 101-93 defeat to the shorthanded Memphis Grizzlies. I'm David Ramil, the host of Locked On Heat. No John Morant, Desmond Bane, or Jaren Jackson Jr. from Memphis, but the Heat couldn't take advantage of the opportunity after an overtime win over Boston this past Friday. The story of the game is the difference between the two teams in the painted area, where the Grizzlies outscored Miami 64-24. That wasn't a mistake. A whopping 40-point difference that underscored Miami's lack of size. Give Memphis's Steven Adams a lot of credit for clogging up the middle and challenging Heat drives, but it was also a lackluster performance from Miami's best players. Jimmy Butler scored just 18 points, and Bam Adebayo, on a tear lately, it looked like his less aggressive self with just 15 points of his own. And the Heat bench was absolutely putrid. A combined 11 points on 3 of 17 shooting. The Heat looked passive and discombobulated for most of the night. A far cry from the team that beat Boston. They simply didn't have an answer for Memphis' size and continuous runs to the rim. Miami was reminded of just how small and thin the rotation can be, and they closed out a road trip with a loss rather than yet another win that would have brought them back to 500 record. They won't have much time to dwell on the loss as they return to Miami for a homestand that kicks off versus the Pistons on Tuesday night. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Heat to find out what happens next.
In a battle of culture versus culture, at least on this night, the new age, new look Memphis Grizzlies gave the old Heat culture a run for its money. No John Morant, no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Desmond Bane, all Memphis Grizzlies stars out for this one, and yet the other guys got the job done against a well-rested and relatively healthy Miami Heat squad. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies, and it was an impressive win, especially for players that have been asked to do more as of late, especially by me, and not necessarily being able to get the job done. Case in point, Tyus Jones signs a 2-year, $30 million contract extension in the offseason. The Memphis Grizzlies, within their culture, talk about being the next man up. Tyus Jones has not been that consistently for this team up to this point in the season until this game against the Heat. A career night for Tyus Jones, as he's lovingly called, a reminder of why he got that contract extension, and a friendly reminder of the depth that this Memphis Grizzlies team possesses against the game Heat squad.
The Mavericks put a beat down on the Suns thanks to 23 pointers. They were certainly hot from behind the arc. Locked On Mavs happy to recap a statement home win.
Dallas Mavericks get a home win against the Phoenix Suns, and their threes go down. Nick Angstiff from the Locked On Mavericks podcast here. The Dallas Mavericks get revenge, first time beating the Phoenix Suns in the regular season since 2019, and this game was a lot like the Game 7 in the playoffs. The Mavericks dominated from the jump. They kept their lead. They kept the Suns at a distance because their threes were going down. When this team can hit their threes, they can beat literally anybody in the league. Tim Hardaway has found his stroke over the last 3 games. He hits 5 threes in this game. Spencer Dinwiddie couldn't really do anything else in this game, but he hits 5 threes. Luka Doncic hits 4 of his 9 threes for 33 points. He only has to play just under 30 minutes in this one. And a great game from Josh Green coming off the bench. 16 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, couple of steals. He has really taken the next step forward and become a real piece in this Dallas Mavericks rotation. And, of course, we get the Hardy party late in the game. 9 points in a minute 46 from Jaden Hardy, scoring on all different levels.
The Indiana Pacers played their second straight game without Tyrese Halliburton, but they still managed to take down the defending champs last night. Locked On Pacers tells you how the shorthanded Pacers took care of the Warriors.
No Tyrese Halliburton, no Miles Turner, no problem for the Indiana Pacers tonight. They go into Golden State and beat the champion Warriors without 2 of their best players, 112-104. in easily their most impressive win of the season. They got it done on both ends, making 15 threes, getting to the foul line, and of course scoring 112 points, holding the Warriors to 104. Steph Curry only scores 12, and the story of this game for the Pacers, rookie guard Andrew Nembhard, the 31st overall pick in the draft, finishes with 31 points, a career high, 13 assists, a career high, and 8 rebounds, controlled the game without Halliburton or TJ McConnell. He played over 41 minutes for the Pacers as their point guard and was excellent in those minutes. A stunning performance from the undermanned Pacers on a back-to-back to go into the Chase Center and beat this Warriors team. We'll have all this and more on Nembhard on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
And the Warriors have kept a winning record through the start of the regular season thanks to a bunch of great play at home, but Golden State suffered just its second loss at home against the Pacers on Monday. Locked On Warriors goes over how Indiana got the best of the reigning champs.
The Golden State Warriors' 10-game home winning streak is snapped. I'm Cyrus Satsas with your Locked On Warriors Locked On Now recap of the Golden State Warriors losing to the Indiana Pacers at Chase Center tonight, 112-104. On the 6-year anniversary of Klay Thompson lighting this same Pacers team up for 60 points in 3 quarters of play on just 11 dribbles. He couldn't quite replicate it. 28 points, 8 of 16 shooting from 3, but Stephen Curry was stymied. The Pacers oftentimes double and triple teamed him. He finished with just 12 points in the worst performance of the season for him. And the Warriors just, again, could not match the athleticism of the Indiana Pacers on a night when Andrew Wiggins did not play due to a minor injury. Kylan Mills and I will have a live episode tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Follow the program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs.
That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NBA. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure that you are subscribed to Locked On NBA and your favorite teams Locked On podcast, both on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.